Wanda, aka Scarlet Witch, was born in the mountains of Eastern Europe with her twin brother Pietro. Wanda and her brother Pietro were mutants with special powers. Pietro had super speed and Wanda had the power of telekinesis. After local problems arose in their hometown, Wanda was separated from her brother and was forced to hide her powers. When Wanda and her brother got older, they joined a criminal mutant group led by Magneto to ensure the future of mutants. When the group disbanded, Wanda and Pietro joined the Avengers through Captain America in hopes of reversing their reputation as villains.
Scarlet Witch has the power of telekinesis, which makes her have the ability to move objects with her mind. When we refer to telekinesis, we also refer to the term molecular kinesis. This process allows users to have limited control of physical forces and gives them the ability to move and interact with objects and people of a certain number, size, speed, and weight without physical contact from a distance. Scarlet Witch is able to accomplish this in the movie Endgame when she picks up Thanos to destroy his armor. When she uses her powers, she uses cellular plasticity to move objects by taking on characteristics of other cells. In this, she has the ability to reversibly assume different cellular phenotypes. For example, in Endgame, when Scarlet Witch picks up two massive boulders and throws them at Thanos, cellular plasticity allows her to maintain homeostasis, a balanced internal environment, even with the movement and changes occurring through the use of her powers. The intracellular transport and localization of cellular components are vital to maintain homeostasis in eukaryotic cells when cell plasticity occurs. Scarlet Witch also has the power to teleport objects from one location to another. In order to complete this action, she uses biological transportation, which is the idea that all life forms, at least on Earth, are essentially DNA software systems. DNA directs and creates the more tangible biological hardware made of proteins, cells, and tissues. Because DNA contains all the necessary information to recreate a life form, by copying its code and essentially rewriting it, Scarlet Witch has the power to recreate living organisms, which is the process of teleportation. Scarlet Witch can also use telepathy to control and read others' minds. Cells transmit information within each other using synaptic transmission, and because all cells are connected to each other in a network, brains release a synchronized wave of electrical activity that mirrors the state of a brain at that moment. This means that both our brains can send information using electrical signals as it does with neuroprostheses, but also that the brain can also receive information through those same brainwaves. So when Scarlet Witch reads people's minds, she reads the brainwaves in the mind of that person. When she's controlling minds, she sends information as an order to that person. However, Scarlet Witch does have one major weakness. She has a mental disorder called psychosis. Psychosis is defined as an acute or chronic mental state marked by loss of contact with reality, disorganized speech and behavior, and hallucinations or delusions, as seen in other mental illnesses like schizophrenia. A psychotic break is more common with those who have genetic abnormalities, and because Scarlet Witch is a mutant, it means that having psychosis from birth was more likely to occur because she's a mutant. Another possible reason for Scarlet Witch's mental illness is that she may have had a microdeletion in the chromosome 22q11. Also, the gene G27 and gene 30 at chromosome 13q33.2 could also create a susceptibility for psychosis. However, we cannot be sure.
While Scarlet Witch has extensive mental capabilities, she possesses similar strength to that of the average human of her build. This lack of superhuman strength is counteracted by her ability to use telekinesis to move objects far greater than any normal human can move. However, lack of physical strength does not discredit her fitness. The battles she takes part of give her much more exercise than any normal human. Scarlet Witch's ability to teleport also affects her physical well-being. Teleportation while being difficult is possible. However, it would involve the transfer of the data of one's atoms. This means that Scarlet Witch would have to deconstruct herself and reconstruct herself on the atom level. This would require a ton of force and could lead to the degradation of muscles and other cells in the body. In order to counteract this, Scarlet Witch would have to exercise her muscles a lot so they do not collapse. In our brains, two chemicals contribute to psychosis together after a triggered event has occurred. which for Scarlet Witch may have been the death of her children. These two chemicals are the neurotransmitters glutamine and dopamine. Glutamine affects the levels of dopamine in our body, which causes the transition to psychosis and is likely what happened to Scarlet Witch. While using her powers of telekinesis, Scarlet Witch portrays the quantum theory. In the context of quantum field theory, we know precisely how forces arise, through the exchange of quantum fields. And most importantly, we know what forces can couple to, the properties of the matter fields that constitute an object. These properties include location, mass, spin, and various charges such as electric charge or baryon number. We know that forces arise through the exchange of quantum fields, those of bosons and fermions. These forces together create a matter field that constitutes the object itself. If we know the positions, spins, and quantity of all 5 particles, then it makes it possible to state with certainty how a force will affect that particle. What Scarlet Witch does is she calculates the probability that conditions forming the desired molecular force will occur, and then increases that probability, which would essentially create telekinesis.
During teleportation, Scarlet uses a unique method to create proper teleportation. This would be different than that of the pure copying of reactions and then replicating the reactions to create a similar result in a purely physical way, but very different in the quantum realm. Instead, Scarlet Witch finds all the electrons and the particles that have an exact quantum pair and then increases the probability that all the partner pairs of the ones in the matter she wants teleported are together and that the quantum state transfers to the matter in the desired location. To do this, the original state is destroyed, thus creating teleportation, one of her major powers. As for her other power of reality manipulation, it can be explained by the infinite states of the photons around us. Photons are types of particles that are known as the quantum of the electromagnetic field. They play a role in determining the electromagnetic spectrum of a given element and are always in an infinite possible state. By choosing one of these states, we change the world around us by making the photons of our choice become more prominent, while those of other choices begin to fade away in radioactive decays such as alpha decays, gamma decays, or beta decays. But Scarlet Witch uses her power to identify the probability of every possible state, even those in the midst of fading, and then increase the probability of the state she desires. This can range from minor changes in our world all the way to massive reality changes, like when she changes the world around to contain a majority of mutants rather than humans in the comic House of M.
Scarlet Witch's powers center on telekinesis. Telekinesis is a word derived from 2 terms. The first, tele, means far off, away from the user. The second, kinetic, is a term derived from physics, meaning motion, or relating to or resulting from motion. So Scarlet Witch is able to control the motion of objects with her mind, possibly because of her strong mental capabilities. Theoretically, if someone had the capability to concentrate their mental energy to be extremely focused, they could use that energy to impact objects in the physical world. So maybe Scarlet Witch's ability to move objects in the real world could be explained by these intense mental strength. Telekinesis requires the user to exert a certain amount of force on their target, meaning that the target may be able to break out of their telekinetic hold if they are able to apply a greater amount of force. Therefore, telekinesis is bound by the energy power of one's mind and also because of the psychokinetic force that someone like Scarlet Witch generates can be broken by someone with sufficient physical strength. We see that it is also bound by the laws of motion.
Now, in real life, there are no known humans who are able to lift objects with cool red mystic powers. The effects that we enjoy on the big screen are all created by computers, and they are known as visual effects, or VFX for short. Marvel uses VFX extensively in their superhero films, and especially in shots involving Scarlet Witch and her powers. In fact, out of 2,698 shots in the film Avengers Endgame, 2,496 of them needed visual effects in some form, whether it be adding in clouds of red mist around herself and her targets, or generating realistic environments and objects to be manipulated by Scarlet Witch through CGI. Visual effects are an integral part of the Scarlet Witch movie experience.